I had experienced trauma, I had experienced sexual abuse, and my body normalized that chaos. My body normalized things being out of control. A lot of my work in my healing journey and tending to my unresolved trauma has been around normalizing not chaos, but safety. Welcome to Codependency Alchemy, the podcast, where we explore the power of healing the mother wound by exploring codependency in our relationships. And I'm here to share my own personal journey with codependency and the valuable tools that I have learned along the way. Let's get into this week's episode. Hey babes, welcome to Codependency Alchemy, the podcast. I'm your host, Alyssa, and today we're going to do a little bit of a personal story share. I'm going to tell you guys the shit that went down this week because it was a lot, and I'm just going to spend some time processing it all with you guys. And it just feels like, cozy story time day. The weather is kind of like gloomy. I even made myself a cup of hot chocolate because hot chocolate's really soothing for me. It's like my go-to, my anchor. And this week, I certainly needed a few anchors. If you're new here, we talk about all things codependency, healing unresolved trauma, which is what I'm going to share about today, and just relationship stuff, because it shows up not only in our relationships, but in the way that we relate to our life and the world around us and our work. And yeah, I just wanted to create a space where we're having these conversations because I need a space where we can talk about these things. And so welcome if this is your first time listening to the podcast. And if you've been here for a while, I hope that you enjoy my story time today. I know a common reflection I get from you guys is this gratitude for me sharing my journey, my process, what I go through, my real time examples of these things. And I'm so glad, because the only thing that I'm an expert on is my experience. And so I'm glad that me sharing what is going on in my life, what I am moving through, is something that's supportive for you guys. So shall we get into the messy week of my life? I'm like, where do we even start? We should probably start last Wednesday. Last Wednesday, I had a massage, and it's something that I have decided is a non-negotiable in my life, that if I'm going to continue to pour into my community and pour into this work, I have to make sure that I am allowing myself to also receive, because it's a lot to hold. And I feel like sometimes I hold it a lot in my body. And so I've been really good at scheduling a massage every 2 weeks to just release, receive, move energy. And boy, did that fucking happen last Wednesday. I will preface this with, I realize that I am clairvoyant, and so sharing all this might be like, whoa, all of that happened in your massage. At least that's what Justin said to me when I was telling him. He was like, wait, I thought we were talking about a massage, but now you're telling me about this. And I'm like, yeah, this is how my mind works. I visually see things. I, am clairaudient, so I hear things as well. And yeah, just all the clairs. But there's going to be a lot of visions and visuals that I'm going to share with you guys today. And these things have really turned on since I started doing more healing work with myself and tapping into energy work and such. But I digress. So last Wednesday, I went to go get a massage. There was this point on my back. It was my right shoulder blade, right in the center of my right shoulder blade. And every time my massage therapist would move, and it was a deep tissue massage, so she wasn't just rubbing me all soft and sweetly. It was getting in there, right? To where it's it hurts, but it hurts good, if that makes sense. And so she's getting into that spot, and all of a sudden my entire body just tenses up and starts shaking. The overall sense was me wanting to scream, get the fuck away from me. That was kind of the energy. And it wasn't that she was doing anything wrong or bad, and it wasn't that I wanted her to get away from me, but it was that type of energy of wanting someone to fuck off. And because I do the work that I do, and I know that the body is holding things, and I know the body has a story. And so when that intense contraction was coming in, I kind of like had that fuck you, get away from me energy and like story in my mind that was replaying. And so I was reminding myself to take deep breaths. And so this is where I started asking questions, and this is where it starts getting like a little bit wild. So I asked this part of my body that was feeling this intense contraction, like, what is here? What am I holding on to? What is it that I'm grabbing onto so intensely? And what I saw next after I asked those questions was a 3-year-old version of myself, just like a toddler, and she's throwing the biggest fucking temper tantrum. So I just see her. I don't necessarily see her in an environment. It was just kind of like all dark and black, but it was just her, and she's kicking and screaming and yelling. I have done so much inner child work and inner child healing, and I start moving myself through the process that I lead, women in my groups through. I try to move closer. As soon as I get a little bit closer to her, she starts kicking at me even more. So I'm taking deep breaths to try to remain, regulated, and hopefully that will kind of calm or soothe her as well. I've, worked with hundreds of children. That's what I used to do before this. I used to be a teacher. I used to be a nanny. I've worked with, like I said, hundreds of children. So this is not my first tantrum that I've seen. I know the importance of holding compassionate, loving space for a child in a tantrum. For all those parents out there, something that was extremely helpful for me regarding tantrums is tantrums have a beginning, a middle, and an end. They will always end. Even though in the moment it feels like they won't, and that's what I experienced in this vision as well, they will always end. And that sometimes helps me remember in the moment, tantrums have a beginning, middle, and end. So I remember trying to like affirm that to myself in this vision and letting her know, you're feeling big feelings. I'm here, I'm listening. And she would just get louder and louder. And so I noticed that like when I would say something, she would just freak out even more, which oftentimes that can also be what happens in real life with children. Is the more we say, it can be more activating. And so sometimes saying less is more in a sense. So all of the things that I'm trying to do to meet this part of me is not working. And then I noticed that I am starting to get more anxious because I'm unable to soothe this 3-year-old tantruming part of me. Mind you, the massage is still happening. My massage therapist is continuing to go over this part. She's even reminding me to breathe. She's even reminding me to like let go. I'm also simultaneously having this whole inner child soul retrieval experience with myself. So I'm noticing that I'm unable to console her. I'm noticing that I'm also getting anxious now in my inability to console her. And so when this happens for me, when I do soul retrievals for myself or when I lead other people through a soul retrieval, is we get to call in our helping spirits, our team, to support us in moving through it. So I called in my power animal, and my power animal comes, right away and lands on my shoulder. So I have the tantruming 3-year-old version of myself. I have me, I have my power animal on my shoulder, and my massage therapist, like right at that moment, goes and like makes a sound on that part of my back. And that sound kind of reminds me a little bit of like, it's not a horn, but kind of like a sort of sound on that part of my back. And in my vision, what happened was my power animal like opened its mouth and made that sound that my massage therapist had made. And obviously that kind of like looked funny, and my 3-year-old version of myself started laughing. So she's laughing now because of that sound that my power animal just made. And I'm like, perfect. We're getting somewhere. We're getting someplace. She's not screaming anymore. She's laughing. And so there's like this moment of softening, not only for her, but like for me, as like, whew, relief. And so I kind of move in closer, and she lets me, and she's more curious now about my power animal that is on my shoulder that made that interesting sound. And I ask her, hey, can you tell me what's going on? And she said, everything is out of control. everything's a mess. Nothing's in order. She starts kind of like freaking out a little bit, but not tantruming anymore. But it's this like repetitive, everything's out of control. Nothing is in order. Nothing's being taken care of. I'm not being taken care of. And I'm like, wow, okay, I see you. You know, I don't have a memory or recollection of this time of my life when I was 3, obviously. But, you know, like my parents were young parents. My mom was a teenager when she had me. They worked multiple jobs. Who knows what I was experiencing at that time? And so I was like, okay, I hear you. Like, you feel like everything's out of control. Everything's, you know, not in order. And I asked her if I could show her something. She agreed. And so her and my power animal and I, we like flew into my current home here. If you're watching this episode on YouTube, you can kind of like see my house around me and behind me. And you'll see it's like very much in order, very tidy, not chaotic at all. And I was like, this is where I live. And I live here with my dog. Showed her Frank. And I showed her Justin, and I showed her, you know, around the house in the rooms. And I was like, this is where I live. This is where we live. And I would love for you to come live with me. And she was like so calm. She like loved Frank. She like wanted to keep playing with Frank. And she was really settling. And the reason why I brought her to my house and told her this is where I live now is because these parts of us that are fragmented, that are frozen in time in these traumatic experiences or moments, they think that they're still 3. They think that I am still 3 in this example. So it's important for me to show her that I'm not actually 3 anymore, that we're not actually in that situation anymore, that we have a whole life that we've lived, and this is what we've created with it. This is soul retrieval. This is bringing a part of us that has been frozen in time to our present moment to begin to use it as an ally. And so she agreed. She agreed that she would stay here with me. She agreed that she would love to live here and experience life. And, you know, I usually invite the people who I do this work with to like ask this part of them what they want their new job to be. I don't remember doing that in the massage, but I do remember her going back over that spot after I had brought her to my home in the vision, and that spot wasn't like making me like clench up and shake anymore. Like my body was physically like shaking on the table. It was weird. It was awkward, but I like could not help it. And so it was interesting and super fucking neat to have her go over that spot again. And after I had brought her to my house in my vision and it being gone, like released, like let go. And so like I said, I don't remember asking her what her new job was. And that would have been a really important question to ask because the shit that went down after this massage was a little bit of a mess. Now, after soul retrievals, after we reclaim a sacred part of us that's been frozen in time, there is a period of integration. That integration can look a number of different ways. There isn't a right way or a wrong way. There's just ways, and it varies person to person. So what I've learned from my experience and the experience of others who I've done this work with is, you know, that period of integration after you've reclaimed that part can look like extreme excitement, completion. It can like boost you full of energy, like you've just got your life back. Other times it can be extremely exhausting where it's like, oh, I just need to sleep. I need to rest. Other times it can look like those patterns coming up to the surface full force to really, really look at them right in the fucking face. Like you've got a mirror 2 inches away from you. And that last one is the one that I experienced. I had a mirror like 2 inches from my face, and I was just seeing me, grown up, size Alyssa, living my fucking life in a full-blown 3-year-old tantrum. Like I was tantruming in everything. Like nothing was working out. I just felt like very uneasy. I felt very out of body. And it was over stupid, silly shit too. It was like, I can't find my chapstick. My sock has a hole in it now. the story. My 3-year-old self was saying like, everything's out of control. That was how I fucking felt. So I have a full-blown tantrum day exactly a week after I had my massage, and Justin and I go to take our daily walk. We do a 3-mile loop to walk Frank and just get outside and all the things. So we're walking, and Justin has noticed that I'm tantruming, right? I'm having such a fit that I'm almost like laughing at myself at how ridiculous it all was. He's like walking on eggshells a little bit. Then as we're walking, I just started unloading, unleashing, and told him the story I just told you about the massage. You know, he was like, wait, all of this happened in your massage? It's like, yeah. Welcome to a day in the life of Alyssa, where it can't just be a massage. It's like a fucking spiritual journey. But as I was talking to Justin, I noticed something that I was doing this week. I was noticing, specifically with my business, I was noticing how the story I was telling myself was that what I was doing wasn't working and that I needed to try something else. As I was talking with Justin, I was like, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to change this. And then it occurred to me that this 3-year-old version of myself that thinks everything is out of control acts out in my life as the way that I don't focus on what is working. I focus on what I think isn't working, and then I try to change it or fix it because I think it's broken. I think it's like, not working. And what happened in this walk, this is why it's so important to process out loud, because I don't know that I would have seen it so clearly. As I'm processing all of this out loud and I'm like, I've got to change this, all of a sudden I get this hit that's like, it's not that that's not working, it's the thought that it's not working that is keeping it broken, is keeping you continuously trying to control all of these things outside of you because you believe the thought that it's not working. And I was like, holy fuck. So what I have to put down here, what I get to actually heal with this whole experience that I had with my 3-year-old self, is showing her that things are under control, showing her that things are in order, showing her that things are working, that I don't need to constantly there's something to be said about pivoting. I think pivoting can be really helpful if something really isn't working. But to take a moment to really reflect on, is it that it's really not working, or is it the thought that I'm believing about it not working that's keeping me feeling in chaos? And this is something that I learned, a few years ago. I learned that my nervous system normalized chaos. I realized that, I grew up in a home that was chaotic, if you will. I had experienced trauma, I had experienced sexual abuse, and that was chaos for me. And my body normalized that chaos. My body normalized things being out of control, right? And a lot of my work in my healing journey and tending to my unresolved trauma has been around normalizing, not chaos, but safety. Can I normalize what it feels like to feel safe? Can I let my body and nervous system regulate and feel safe in safety, feel safe in order, feel safe in peace and ease? And even though I feel like I have done that to a certain point, this is why the healing journey is not like this destination that you boom, arrive to. It's a journey. It's a journey, and we get to meet layers of it again and again and again. And this was just another layer. Can I see how I am taking something that is so beautiful, like the work that I'm doing here? This was really work related for me this week. It was can I take the work that I'm doing, the positive reflections, the people reaching out saying hey, this episode really stuck out to me. Hey, I really needed to hear what you had said in this episode. Thank you so much for sharing our story. If I could just take those and allow myself to feel safe enough to receive those reflections, then I won't continuously think that this isn't working and that I need to change it and do something different. it goes into the mother wound of comparing myself to others. Well, so-and-so does it this way, and so-and-so does it that way, and so-and-so has like this many ratings or this many reviews. It's like all of a sudden I'm acting from my wounded part of myself. I'm acting from even like my ego, rather than remembering my mission at heart, rather than remembering the point of why I do all of this, which is for all of us to feel seen and for all of us to feel heard and for us to have a brave space to explore topics that are uncomfortable as fuck. And as long as I'm doing that, then it is quote unquote working, right? I get to remind myself of the why I do this work, and even more so, seeing how this wounded 3-year-old version of myself that I got to reclaim this week, how much she has been leading the show. Because when we don't do our shadow work, our inner child work, and heal our unresolved trauma, those parts of us act out on the main stage. They're running the whole fucking show. And like I said, it shows up in like all these different facets of our life. It can show up in our relationship. It can show up in our work and our business. It can show up in just the way that we feel about or towards ourselves, right? That part of me was leading the show, saying everything is out of control. I am broken. I need to be fixed. That is the story she was telling. And I was making decisions and making choices or judging myself against the choices that I thought that I needed to make, because she truly believed that. And so because I was able to have this experience, and you don't have to have it in a massage. That was the first time I've ever had a massage where that type of, healing got to take place. I do this like on my fucking couch, like where you guys are seeing me, record this episode. It can be done anywhere. I truly believe that. And even when we had our December meetup for our Substack subscribers, I did a soul retrieval with someone live on the call. Like within 20 minutes, she had moved from a question of struggling being intimate with her partner to finding this 9-year-old version of herself and having this whole beautiful journey. I won't get into it. I talk about it on my Substack though, if you guys want to read about it. But it's like that can all happen, and it happens so fast. Like it can happen within minutes. A woman who is in the mastermind, I led her through the same process via texting. We were texting back and forth because we have a group chat in the mastermind, and all within an hour, she moved from, a triggered, activated moment to feeling so much solace and peace and remembering of who she is. Like that's what gets to happen when we reclaim these parts of us. It's remembering our power. Because this 3-year-old version of me, like she doesn't want to continue to be like the control freak. She's learned to be the control freak because that's what kept her safe. I needed to be in control as much as possible in order to feel safe, because I felt so out of control in my life and in the experiences that I was having as a child. I felt so out of control. So of course she developed this need for control in order to provide some semblance of, power that had been stripped away from her. But now, as an adult, not in that environment, not in that situation, so many things like changed and different. I have to show that part of me that's frozen in time that we don't have to do that anymore. That's actually a disservice to me now as opposed to a support. And it's okay. It's okay that she's done it that way for so long, because I didn't know where she was and I couldn't find her. And, she's only been made aware now. I truly believe that like you can't miss what's meant for you. If it was supposed to happen any other time, it would have. Today, this week, this was the time I was meant to reclaim this part of me in this way. And so it's bringing her in and now getting to ask her like, okay, if you're not the control freak in the situation, what are you? What is your new job? What is it that you want to do? And for her, like the first word that popped in was create. Like just create. And that's so much of what I've been doing. And so it's like she gets to now be a part of that. And in that creation process, she gets to be excited and in joy with me in it, as opposed to saying it's broken, it needs to be fixed, right? Because I would record podcast episodes and I would edit, and sometimes I'd be like, oh my gosh, like I need to change this, I need to change this, I need to change this, or I'd compare myself to other podcasters and what they're doing. And that was my unresolved trauma of the story that she was telling, that 3-year-old version of myself. It's broken, it needs to be fixed. Everything's out of control. Comparing myself, judging myself. So now that I've brought her in, it's like we get to create and we get to be like, oh my gosh, I love how we do this. I love how it looks. Love how it feels. Like this is authentic to me. I'm not trying to put myself in a box where I look or sound or feel like somebody else, because at the end of the day, that's not sustainable. And because it's not sustainable, what's going to end up happening is it's going to fucking break. And I think that's the wild paradox that people don't get, is that like the thing that we fear the most, if that unconscious part of us, right, that shadow aspect of ourselves, stay unconscious, they end up perpetuating the very thing that we fear the most. If I continuously believe the thought that this isn't working, it needs to be fixed, it's broken, everything's out of control, and I keep treating my life or my business or the work that I do as that, then I'm never going to get it right. It's always going to be broken, and it will quite literally break. It's like that saying, you always find what you're looking for, right? And so what I started looking for this week is all the ways that it is working, all the ways that it is supporting not only me, but others. And that is truly, truly healing as fuck. So as I was on this walk with Justin and I'm saying all these things out loud and I'm processing with him, I start getting really emotional and I start like breaking down in tears, because I felt so sad for that 3-year-old version of myself. She deserved to be taken care of. She deserved to feel like everything was safe. She deserved that, and she didn't get that. And I felt sad that it took me so long to find her. I felt sad that my body held that memory, that belief, that whole experience in my right shoulder blade, that I had lived with that my whole life. So there was this grief that kind of took over my body, and I just cried. And it felt so fucking good to cry. And I don't cry very often, actually. But I just cried, and it felt like a release. Quite literally a physical release, like moving it out of my body. And this is the power of this work. This is why I am such a huge advocate for shadow work and inner child work and somatics. Like all of that experience touched on all 3 of those tools and supports. I got to witness the shadow aspect of myself that judges, that compares. I got to witness the inner child in me that was frozen in time, the one that says everything is out of control, it's broken, you need to fix it, everything's out of order, you have to take care of it, no one else will. I got to witness where that lived in my body and how that felt. It just felt like a prison that I just wanted to break out of. And because I got to have the opportunity to make all of this conscious, because I got to have the opportunity to meet myself fully in this way, I get to now experience a more full life, more joyful life, more excited way of relating to my life, because I can see why and where the stories and patterns have lived, and now can use what I know to anchor in a new truth, a new experience, a new way of relating. One that says, wow, look at all of the ways it is working. Wow, look at how much order and safety and like security I've created for my life. and getting to anchor into that. It's truly liberating. It's liberating. It feels like freedom. It feels like getting your fucking life back. It is so, so powerful. And honestly, it's an honor that I get to even do this work with people, that people trust me, that people come alongside me and say, like, I am ready. I'm ready to do this. Let's go there. Let's see what there is to see. Because it can be a lot doing it on your own. And not to say that you can't, because you absolutely can. And I know that having a place to like process out loud and say things and be like, this is what's coming up, it can change everything for you. It can make a huge difference. Honestly, that's why I do the group coaching calls and Substack. If you want to see this like done in real life, if you want to even move through the process with me, our next group coaching call is in January. So I'll leave the link below so that if you want to RSVP, it's for Substack subscribers. So you may need to sign up for Substack first, and then you'll get accepted for the event. But it's a really fun way for me to get together with our community, for me to have a little bit of FaceTime with you guys. It's all on Zoom. Last month, I got to lead a woman through this whole process. You know, like I said, in less than 20 minutes, she was like, holy shit, like I did not even know that was there, did not know that that's where that was going to go, all based off of a question around intimacy with my partner, and have even talked with her since then. And she was like, that was a quantum leap. Like within 48 hours, so much has changed. And that is truly what is possible when we are courageous and vulnerable enough to do this work. I am like so curious if you guys can hear Frank, because he's not even sleeping. His eyes are open, but he's like breathing so loudly. It's hilarious. It's like he's trying to breathe over me is what it feels like. Okay, so we're gonna wrap it up there. Franklin, you are so silly. Okay, so we're gonna wrap it up there. I hope this share gave you a perspective or a lens that you could see how this process kind of plays out in your life, and also evidence of the healing is always happening and flowing, that I certainly have not arrived to a place of healed and don't experience these things. I very much still do. And that's something that's really important to me in the work that I do, is to show you guys like how I'm very much moving through these processes as well, and sharing with you how that process looks, like can look, how it's looked for me. Obviously, doesn't mean that it has to look the same exact way for you, but just to show you an example of all these pieces and how they work together. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up there, but it was lovely hanging out with you guys. It's a beautiful way to spend my morning and just share this and to be witnessed in the integration of this part of me and having you guys here with me on the journey. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this, any questions you have. If there is a topic or something that you'd like me to share on the podcast next year, there's a Q&A on Spotify if you listen on Spotify. So leave any suggestions of things that you want videos or podcast episodes on. I had a few really good ones come through on my Instagram stories the other day when I did a Q&A box. So yeah, send them my way so I can get them scheduled for next year. And yeah, we'll leave it at that. I love you all so much. I hope you have a beautiful day, and I'll see you next week. Bye. Thank you for joining me on Codependency Alchemy. If you found this podcast helpful, I would love it if you would consider leaving an honest rating and review so that others can discover these valuable insights and tools as well. Find out how codependency might be impacting your life by taking the self-assessment, which you can find in the show notes below. Thanks again for tuning in, and remember, you are worthy of healthy, fulfilling relationships, and you have the power to transform your codependency into sovereignty.